Across the UK, there are hospitals where the past never fades, where the dead still linger, trapped within the walls. These are the 15 most haunted hospitals, home to the spirits that walk among us. 1. Conquest Hospital. On the surface, Conquest Hospital is calm. Sterile white walls, the usual beeping monitors, the predictable rhythm of life-saving routines. But in the ICU, death has a habit of walking in and not leaving. It began with whispers, then shadows. One patient in critical condition screamed out, "He's here! Don't let him take me!" Before flatlining, his vitals spiked, then dropped as if something had pulled him under. Security footage from that night showed a figure, tall, cloaked, drifting past the glass. But no one was there. The door never opened. The sensors picked up nothing. Nurses on the night shift speak of the watcher, always at the foot of the bed, always around 3:38 a.m. He doesn't speak, doesn't breathe, just stares. One nurse had a panic attack after she swore he walked straight through a locked door. Her heart monitor registered arrhythmia for 11 seconds, the exact moment cameras cut to static. Blessings were held, crucifixes placed in drawers. One was found bent backward and warm. And the patients who see him never make it to morning. And lately, he's been seen in the hallway outside the ICU, waiting. 2. Cardiff Royal Infirmary. They closed it in '98. Asbestos, they claimed, or maybe a broken boiler. But Ward 13 never truly emptied. Not of sound, not of sorrow. Night staff still report the same things. Metal bed frames dragging across the floor. Whispers behind closed doors. Welsh lullabies sung in voices too soft to be human. One porter, on a dare, spent his break inside. He came out 30 minutes later, pale, shaking, and speechless. He never spoke of what happened. He never stepped into that hallway again. An old matron once described a girl, maybe 10 years old, who sits by the window under a full moon, pale as parchment, silent. If you blink, she's gone. The locals say something dark happened there, an experiment, a cover-up. Whatever it was, the cries you hear aren't from memory. They're from something still trapped. The power was officially cut 2 decades ago, but the lights flicker on and off every full moon. And every time they repaint the walls, the outlines of small hands return. Some believe the ward is not haunted by the dead, but by something never fully born. Knock on the door once, and you'll hear 2 knocks back. Some say if you answer the second knock, something walks out. 3. Royal Stoke University Hospital. Royal Stoke is sleek, clean, efficient. But tucked between Ward B and the old records wing is Lift 5. And no one, not even seasoned staff, uses it after midnight. Patients report strange voices in the lift, distorted whispers like static forming words just out of reach. Sometimes the elevator stops on floor 3. Sometimes it won't move at all. Floor 3 was demolished in 2011. A cleaner once took it down to the morgue. The doors opened, and she heard sobbing, loud, guttural. She pressed every button, but the lift wouldn't move. She quit that night. Maintenance is called in regularly for unexplained malfunctions, but by the time they arrive, everything is silent and freezing cold. They say Lift 5 chooses who it lets out. Once, a nurse took it by mistake. She returned with a torn sleeve and no memory of the last 15 minutes. And if it ever stops for you on the 3rd floor, pray the doors stay closed, because whatever's waiting on floor 3 wants to ride back up. 4. Guy's Hospital. In the heart of London, Guy's Hospital is a hub of modern medicine. But deep in its older south wing, a place no longer on maps, something watches from the mirrors. It started in the 70s. surgeons would report seeing a second reflection. A man in Victorian surgical garb, no face, just the outline of a scalpel. A nurse once fainted after seeing herself smiling in the mirror. Only she wasn't smiling. A dark figure stood behind her, unmoving, except for the slow rise and fall of his breath. Post-op patients claimed a man in black watched them sleep. But when nurses came to check, no one was there, only a lingering scent, ether and blood. Legend says he was a disgraced 19th century surgeon, banned for unethical experiments. They say he still practices in the dark, in secret. A mirror in the basement storage shattered without warning last winter. The crack formed like a heartbeat, and if you meet his gaze, you'll wake up marked. Some say the first mark appears as a scar you never had, just beneath your ribs. 5. Central Middlesex Hospital. Down in the abandoned pediatric diagnostics wing lies the ghost of a boy who couldn't stand the quiet. Nurses know, never enter without music playing. Never let the silence settle. He died decades ago. A failed overnight observation. No clear cause, just a still body and the words, "Too quiet," scrawled on the wall in crayon. Since then, strange things happen in silence. Toys roll across the floor, music boxes play by themselves, speakers hum lullabies, warped and broken like they're underwater. A nurse left a Bluetooth speaker in the hallway overnight. By morning, it had melted into the linoleum, but you could still hear giggling. The boy isn't angry, just lonely. But the more silence he hears, the more violent he becomes. Now they seal off the wing after dark. But if you hear Twinkle Twinkle playing with no source, don't listen too long, because he's lonely and wants someone to play with him. And if you do stay, he'll never let you leave in silence again. 6. St. Bartholomew's Hospital. In the shadow of modern skyscrapers stands St. Bartholomew's, the UK's oldest hospital, founded in 1123. Its age is legendary, but so are its ghosts. The White Nun has glided silently through the abandoned East Wing since the 1800s. Staff say she appears at exactly 3:17 a.m., always just passing through, always just ahead of you. The wing is sealed, no power, no access, but muffled cries echo from inside. Looped phrases like, "Help me," and "He's still here." One security tape captured her in the chapel, unmoving for 13 minutes. Then, gone. The East Wing's stone walls are colder than the morgue. Some say it's the wind. Others say it's her breath. A nurse reported feeling fingers brush her shoulder. When she turned around, the room was empty, except for a single white glove on the floor. It's not just the cold or the flickering lights. It's the way the building listens, like it's waiting. Volunteers who wander too close to the chapel door often report hearing humming, low, mournful, like a hymn trapped in stone. And sometimes, patients swear they hear her whisper, "You're next." 7. Royal National Orthopedic Hospital. Nestled in the quiet of Stanmore, the Royal National Orthopedic Hospital is surrounded by trees and something else, something that waits. Every winter, a man in a hospital gown is seen shuffling through the corridors, dragging one leg, silent. No one can ever catch up to him. He doesn't exist on records, and yet he always appears. Staff say he leads you toward the old surgical wing, sealed since the fire in '89. But muddy footprints are found there every few months, walking in, never walking out. A porter once followed him and found an old operating table in the hallway, still warm. The smell of iodine and burnt linen filled the air. They say he died from a misdiagnosed infection, his leg trapped, his screams ignored. Now he walks endlessly, looking for healing. But all he spreads is rot. And sometimes he stops walking, turns around, and looks straight at you, like he remembers your face from somewhere. Last winter, the footsteps stopped for 3 nights, and a junior doctor was never seen again. They say the patient finally found someone to take his place. 8. St. Albans City Hospital. There's a ward in St. Albans that doesn't appear on maps. Its windows are blacked out, its nameplate removed. But still, from behind the steel-reinforced doors, something knocks. In the 1970s, a patient was left in total sensory isolation as part of a controversial therapy. Days in darkness, total silence. When staff returned, he had carved symbols into the walls with his nails. His eyes were wide. His tongue was gone. The ward was shut down, condemned. But nurses walking by still hear dragging sounds. A voice, soft and male, asking, "Is it morning yet?" An intern once looked through the keyhole. What he saw made him scream so hard he tore his vocal cords. He hasn't spoken since. Now, the doors are chained, but the lights flicker inside, even though the power was cut in 1991. If you knock 3 times, he knocks 4. And if you knock 5, you'll hear your name, and he'll ask if it's time to come out. 9. Hertford County Hospital. It started in room 6. A strange creaking, then crying, then full, gasping sobs. At first, they blamed old plumbing, but the cries were too human, too real. One night, maintenance cut into the wall behind the maternity ward after a nurse swore she heard a baby choking inside. No pipes, no wires, just scratch marks, tiny ones. A doctor heard her newborn's name whispered from the sink, then the faucet turned itself on. They say a nurse in the 1950s hid a stillbirth to avoid blame. She tucked the body into a vent. No paperwork, no grave. Now strange things happen, pacifiers vanish, lullabies echo down the vents, and each year, on the anniversary, a baby tooth appears in the same drain. Staff report seeing condensation form the shape of small hands on the glass doors, even when no one's inside, and every mother who sleeps in room 6 dreams the same dream. A child they can't see, crying for her, and hands reaching through the wall. 10. Hereford County Hospital bed. 3 never stays quiet. No matter where they move it, it takes the stories with it. Patients in bed 3 report feeling watched. An old woman prays over them in Latin. A cold hand clasps theirs when they close their eyes, gentle at first, then crushing. Monitors glitch when hooked to the bed. A nurse once covered it and refused to assign it. That night, she dreamed of being paralyzed. Something sitting on her chest, whispering, "Thank you for making space." They brought in a priest. He collapsed the next morning with frostbite on both hands. Indoors, in mild weather. Now the bed sits unused, unplugged, but the sheets still move. Every few nights, someone hears coughing, then a long, rattling breath. And once, someone pulled back the covers, and the pillow was still warm. 11. Bedford Hospital South Wing. They say room 407 in Bedford Hospital breathes. Not metaphorically, literally. Staff have reported hearing slow, labored inhales and exhales coming from the room, even when it's unoccupied. The walls contract ever so slightly, curtains rustle without wind, the door handle pulses like a vein, as though something inside is trying to escape. Originally a respiratory ward room, it holds the memory of a patient who coded during a thunderstorm blackout. He gasped for air as staff tried to keep him alive, but the generator failed. The man died with one final breath, drawn in, but never released. Since then, people say the room has kept that last breath. Patients assigned to 407 report feeling watched, their chests tight, as though someone is drawing the air from their lungs. One nurse fainted after standing inside too long. Her lungs collapsed, despite having no medical history of breathing issues. The room is now listed as under maintenance, but staff refuse to speak openly about it. The hospital won't explain why the floorboards under the bed rise and fall at night. There are whispers that someone or something is still trying to breathe, and it wants to borrow yours. 12. Adenbrooks Hospital. Adenbrooks Hospital, renowned for breakthroughs in science and medicine, hides an unsettling secret in one of its older wards. Room 204. It seems like a perfectly normal room, but there's an air of unease surrounding it, especially among staff who work late shifts. For years, at least one person every year has quit after working a night shift near room 204. Nurses report hearing soft knocks coming from inside, as though someone is gently tapping on the door. Occasionally, they hear a voice whisper their name. Other times, the knocks repeat, but no one is inside. One particularly brave intern once opened the door after hearing the knocks. The room was empty, save for an old wheelchair facing the corner. When the intern turned to leave, he suddenly felt a cold breath on his neck. 2 hours later, he was found in the same chair, sitting motionless, eyes wide open and frozen in terror. He was never seen again at Adenbrooks. The room's door remains locked, but security staff still hear the occasional knock. Those who have dared to open it report feeling an oppressive presence that lingers long after the door is closed. The bed in the room is always warm when checked, and some believe the spirit of the past never truly left. 13. Hythe Medical Center. Hythe Medical Center, small and unassuming, hides a disturbing secret in its supply room, a simple cabinet tucked behind the nurse's station. It's always locked, not for security reasons, but because something inside knocks back. Decades ago, a GP went missing during an overnight inventory shift. His clipboard was found, snapped in half, with a smear of blood across the handle. The door to the cabinet was locked from the inside, and no one saw him again. Since that night, strange occurrences have been reported. Syringes go missing, only to reappear later, filled with dark, clotted fluid. Vials shatter without explanation. One temp nurse made the mistake of opening the cabinet and found the shelves rearranged in a crude shape of a body, arms outstretched, spine curled unnaturally. The cabinet is now bolted shut, sealed with chains and tape. Yet at night, it still rattles. Staff who try to ignore it find the noise grows louder. Each time someone looks away, it grows more persistent. Some say it's waiting for the next person to open it, and when it finally does open, there will be nothing left to stop what's inside. 14. Diana, Princess of Wales Hospital. At first, the sightings were dismissed as a common occurrence, a child wandering the pediatric ward at night. But this girl was different. She never spoke. She never blinked. No one could ever catch up to her. She wears a pale blue hospital gown and appears only between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., always in the same spot near the old ward before renovations. Security guards have tried to corner her, but she vanishes every time at the same spot, where the hallways meet. One night, a junior doctor followed her, believing he could help. 40 minutes later, he returned, confused and with deep scratches on his face. His gown was torn, but strangely, hospital cameras showed he had never left his office. He resigned a week later, refusing to speak about what happened. This mysterious girl has been seen watching infants sleep, tapping lightly on nursery glass. She's been spotted standing on the ambulance bay roof, a place where a child fell to their death in 1993. No one knows her name, but her face is unforgettable. Her smile, hauntingly familiar, resembles a missing patient whose case was quietly closed. Sometimes she appears in discharge photos, standing silently in the reflection behind. And sometimes her presence is felt, cold, fleeting, but always there, lingering just beyond reach. 15. Royal Derby Hospital. Deep in Royal Derby Hospital lies a room long forgotten. The old mortuary freezer, now converted to storage, but some nights it still gets cold, freezing cold. It began when staff heard whispers through the door, layered voices crying in different tones like multiple people sobbing together. Then came the scratching. Thermometers malfunction near it. Security cameras glitch. One cleaner heard someone whisper her childhood nickname through the vent. No one else knew it. The room is locked, but people still hear it. Faint moans, wheezing breath, prayers in languages long dead. And the scent, sweet and metallic, like spoiled blood and roses. Once, someone opened the drawer. Just once. The scream echoed across 2 wings. Now, the handle burns to the touch, but only at night. And there's always one drawer left open, perfectly clean, waiting. Last winter, a staff badge was found inside that drawer. The nurse it belonged to, still missing. And the room's temperature was -3 degrees Celsius, with no power connected. Thank you for watching Creepy Experience. If these latest haunted hospital stories gave you chills, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Leave a comment below and let us know which haunted hospital gave you the most creeps.